Hi everybody, from the Ophthalmo University campus. Today we're going to do an amazing activity, a simulated activity in one very complex task in which we're going to put everything we learn in this course for you to deliver a great outcome in a very complex environment. So in this case, we're going to have a white cataract with weaker sonulus and a high tension. So there is a lot of risk, it's very complex, but what I'm trying to say here and what I'm trying to do is to bring experience from this brain to your brain. So we're gonna deconstruct the task and we're gonna do everything step by step by reasoning, by learning how to think in cataract surgery. So let's start. The first thing, and this is important in every single step, is to have a correct ergonomics. And it's the same here, the same in Capsulorhexis. I'm gonna put my 2 feet in the pedals because this is important. I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna have a correct ergonomics. The second thing is to see perfectly and to have the correct hand positioning. Guys, if you're doing this, the hand positioning in Capsulorhexis is everything. And also the pivoting through the incision. You're gonna see me working in the anterior chamber and the eye is gonna be still. Why? Because I'm gonna be pivoting and floating through the incision. The correct then hand position is, in this case, we're gonna do it frontally with 3 fingers in the front of the patient, and these 2 fingers are gonna be the ones who are gonna allow me with the left hand, so you can see it in the camera. This is the correct hand position, and if you do it temporarily, it's going to be different, but it's going to be the same. You're going to have a fixation point, and with these 2 fingers, you're going to move in the anterior chamber. Look, and the eye is going to be still. Okay, after we did this, I'm going to do it frontally in this case. We're going to do the test. The key here, of course, is, as you can see, we need to stain it with triple blue. So let's gonna do it. We can do it fast. There's people that put air. There's many research that tells that triple blue in short periods is not damaging the endothelium, so you can do it without air. And then we're gonna put viscoelastic directly. Here we have viscoelastic. We need a lot of viscoelastic because it should be a high tension lens, and that's going to change the vectors. Then with a small cystosome, and this is going to be the first important thing. You're going to do a flap that is smaller than what you think, and then you can, in the end, just make it bigger. Okay? But the key here is I'm going to do a first vector that is going to be radial to the eye, and then the second one I'm going to try since the beginning, doing a second movement so I can generate a vector that is parallel to the iris. Parallel to the iris. So I just can grab it with the forceps and just create an amazing Capsulorhexis. So I'm going to enter the eye. Look at me. I'm going to see where the light reflex is. I'm going to grab that as a marker. And then I'm cutting to the right, but also going inside the app, or going up in this case. Look, I'm going up, 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 up. I'm generating that second flap, you see? And that's very important because this is with sonula by high tension. So here's going to be the important thing. Before I do it, I want you to understand, in this screen, we're going to take some good time to understand this. This is going to be key. This is going to be the secret of everything. The sharing and the whipping technique. So there is 2 ways or 2 tools on how to create a cut in the Capsulorhexis. By sharing, I mean I just put the flap, I fold it, and the 2 vectors are parallel. And in the ripping, the 2 vectors are not parallel. You're you're pushing to the center of the eye, but you still generate that vector. This is better for high tension. Okay? So remember, I'm going to do a lot of ripping. And the second thing is, it's gonna be a mix between the two of them. This is not gonna be a black and white. I'm gonna tell you what to do in that problem. Because the key here is we're gonna be objective driven. I want the correct shape, the correct size, and the correct centering, okay? So let's do it. I have the flap, and I'm gonna slowly generate that objective, that is the correct size, the correct shape, and the correct center. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to be a little bit of ripping. Look, I'm doing ripping, perfect, and I just want to be parallel to the limbs. I'm still doing ripping, and I'm going to retake it. Then I'm going to do a little bit of sharing and see how it behaves. Again, what I'm trying to do here is, because I know what the objective is, I'm mixing sharing and ripping in a way that I generate the objective I have. Look at here, remember that the subincisional part, it's extremely important, and you're doing the pivoting, I'm doing some sharing, and I'm gonna go right to ripping so I can generate that amazing Capsulorhexis that you're seeing. Sharing and ripping, sharing and ripping, sharing and ripping, and then again, I'm gonna regrasp, sharing and ripping, and I'm gonna finish it very, very circular. As you can see there, in a very complex environment, we generated a very, very nice Capsulorhexis. That in this case, it took me 4 points, but only because of the time I took to explain. But it's a 100, and why is it a 100? Because it's round, because it's centered to the axis that you can see the point of light, and you need to center that. And then it's very important here that the deviation of the radius, and I put here important, is that you have a radius that needs to be, okay, the same in all the circumference. So the key to do this step and have a great outcome is the generation of the flap. Of course, it's your ergonomics and your hand position and your pivoting through the incision. And also to adapt. I need you to change your mindset and think that you have tools and you have an outcome, and you constantly need to be adapting. And why is this? Because in Capsulorhexis there is many people that say, oh no, my teacher taught me this way, I'm gonna do it that way. We can do that Capsulorhexis clockwise and clockwise with the left hand. It doesn't matter, because you know where the objective is going to be. So let's take this to the real deal. Let's talk about white cataract in Cat D in the Hive Strike Simulator course. And let's go with a student going in that journey. The very most important thing, remember, in my humble opinion, if I can do an artificial division of what cataract surgery is, we're gonna have motor skills, fine motor skills, 64 muscles working. You're gonna have cognitive skills. You're gonna have a lot of decision making to do. And of course, the mindset skills. In this case, you're gonna need to take 80 points in 3 times in consecutive attempts. So that's very important that you have the correct mindset in order to perform very good in all the 3 attempts. So an artificial division, the mindset skills for us are very important, and we have for each an entire workshop. We have the Phaco motor skills and how you learn Phaco motor, fine motor skills in surgery. Then you're gonna have an algorithm and how to make decisions in each step, and then the mind lab, something we truly love. In the motor skills, just remember this. Remember that learning is error driven. So leave your ego outside, and this is the place to make mistakes. Again, it's very important to make all the mistakes possible. About the surgical cognitive lab, remember that there is a correct way to make decisions. In this case, in white cataract with high tension and sonular weakness, you need to make a constant decision between sharing and ripping technique. Why? Because this is objective driven. You need to have the correct outcome. So because of that, this is the way to think. Guys, learn how to think. don't learn a cooking recipe as we were seeing here, right? You don't need to learn a cooking recipe from your mentor. We have the great Charles Kellman that told us that we need to think for ourselves. So how do you gonna think in this case? You're gonna have a set of tools, you're gonna have a forceps, you're gonna have assisted tome, you're gonna have viscoelastics, and also the sharing and ripping technique, and then you're gonna do something. You're gonna act. And when you're acting, you're constantly having feedback. Okay, I'm doing sharing. Is the vector going out? Yes or no? If it's going out, I'm doing ripping. If I'm doing ripping and the vectors goes to the center, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna switch to sharing. But again, guys, this is not black and white. This is something you're gonna do step by step. Again, the sharing technique, the two vectors are going one to the other, they're parallel, okay? The same direction of traction, the same direction of tear. This is to control the flap, and if you have normal tension, if you have high tension, if you do sharing, the vector is gonna go out. What about ripping? If you take the flap and you pull to the center, the direction of the tear, it's more controlled in a high tension environment, okay? So sharing and ripping, but with this concept. You're gonna move through the red line. You're gonna do some sharing, maybe put a little bit of ripping and go back to sharing, or maybe from sharing to ripping. What I mean is you're gonna adapt in this continuous line. This is not black and white, this is shadows of gray in where you're gonna adapt constantly. If you do that, you're gonna see us in this amazing environment. We have one student here, and now we're gonna go to the real deal and how we can do it. Okay guys, let's go to the real deal now. Let's say, and let's think how we can grab knowledge and experience from this brain and put it in that brain. So this is gonna be a simulated activity. The main objective here is for her to perform and for her to learn how to think. And that's what we want. So we're gonna do the step-by-step, slowly, and reasoning with objective and subjective feedback. For this kind of activity, you need to leave ego outside. You need to think, you need to start connecting these two brains in order for her to learn. So we're gonna start this case. This is gonna be a Capsulorhexis in a white cataract with high tension and sonular weakness. Come on, go. And we're gonna put the open light view. The first important thing is to put trip and blue, a lot of trip and blue, so you can have a more a better visualization of the capsule. And then we're gonna put a lot of viscoelastic, and this is a very important thing, because if you put not enough of viscoelastic, you're not compensating the forces that are coming from the lens and the anterior chamber. Okay, so she put a good viscoelastic and go slowly, and this is the key. So she's gonna do with a cystitome the first flap. She's gonna do a radial cut and then a next, and then she's gonna go smoothly getting inside the eye or going up to generate a second vector that is gonna be parallel to the iris. So let's do this, and this is very important because it's gonna have consequences in the final size of the rhexis. So she's cutting and going up. Good, perfect. Go a little bit more, because what you want is to go to that flap and grab it perfectly with the rhexis. So in that case, you already are in a perfect shape. What you don't want to do more, you don't want more, you don't want to extend it radially to the periphery. So you're gonna grab it and pull it to the center, okay? Good. She has a perfect hand position, perfect ergonomics, and she's gonna grab it and do ripping, but short. The movements are short. Ripping, short, more ripping, ripping. Perfect. That I will like that. Do more ripping again. Good. And then we want short movements. Great. And now you do sharing. That's the moment to do sharing. So she's gonna flip it and always be ready to do some ripping, right? So she's doing something, seeing how it behaves and adapting. No, do sharing. Be confident. Because there you need to keep that size, do some sharing, and ready to do ripping, ready to do ripping. Good. Sharing again. You see how we're making decisions. Do sharing, and be ready for the sub-incisional part. In the sub-incisional part, you need to do the build pivoting. Okay, and the key here is perfect. And then regrasp. Here you're gonna do some. Go inside the eye. She's floating and she's always having a center eye. Amazing. Regrasp, and that's going to be a great Capsulorhexis. Look at that. Amazing. So perfect. So let's see. Very nice. Look at that. Okay, so let's take some time to understand what happened. You did a small flap, and then you were always making decisions between sharing and ripping because you had the objective in your brain, right? So that was 100% roundness. It was like it took you 2 points for the centering, but it was great, and 100% of the deviation of the radius. You were always in control of how the cutting was made between sharing and the ripping technique. So just to finish this, remember that it's very important to understand all that happens outside the eye, the ergonomics, the hand positioning, and the floating and pivoting through the incision, but always to make decisions, right? You were in a peak performance state, okay? So we have there the monitor, and you can see right here that for us it's very important to understand the frequency of breathing and also, the cardiac frequency. It's very important also to understand that the mindset skills are very important to have a peak performance state.